Hey guys, it's Julian, and today I'm going to be making a Toolroom-Style tech house track from scratch. If you want to hear the finished track, you can skip to the timestamp at the top of the description. Now, I'll give you a moment to do that. And yeah, so, as always, you can get the full project file and samples and MIDI and presets and everything I'm about to create that you just heard in this video in the description on my Bandcamp. And if you're a patron on my Patreon, check there because it will be available shortly if it isn't already. And yeah, let's get going. So, start off with, I have this bass line pulled up, and then I have a bunch of samples over here. I'll play you the bass line. Let's pitch it up an octave so you can hear. So yeah, pretty simple stuff. We're going to take that, pitch it down. That's good. And then I'm going to make a bass sound for this. You know, usually with house music, I like to start with the kick and the bass. So here we go. I'm gonna use operator to do this. We already have operator pulled up, but the FM basses are really, really good for this style because you'll see you can get something that's still very bassy and deep and warm, but it has like the right high harmonic content to it to where it'll still sound really fat and full in the mix, and it's not just gonna be sine wave like it is right now. So let's take the second oscillator here. Let's give this a bit of release as well. Alright, that sounds cool. And then I'll put that through a low pass. And there we go. So now we got that really big, fat, kind of warm bass sound like we want. Now I'm going to fatten this up a bit. Let's put it through some drum bus. And I'm also going to get an EQ8 here and just cut out at 100 hertz because that's going to make room for the kick. Alright, so there we go. So the bass is sounding pretty solid. So there it is. Like I said, this is still a very warm and stubby and fat bass like you would get from just a sine wave, but now you can actually hear it while still getting the power in the bass there. So next thing we're going to do here is we're going to get this kick that I have. It's a pretty standard like house kick you use in tech house. You can hear it hits really hard. Like it's just a matter of making sure that your kick is like really, really hitting. And if you listen, this has a very particular kind of feel to it when you listen to it with the bass. You can hear like the low end in this kick blends really well with this bass. And part of this is just due to the fact that this kick is tuned to the same key as the bass. You can see it's tuned to G. I already checked it before I put it in the folder. But it's also just like this style of kick. Like, you know, a softer kick just wouldn't work. You really need something like this that's like really hitting. So with the kick and the bass, I like to do those on monitors just because it's a little bit easier to tell what it's going to sound like. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to come back and explain everything that I did to get these two fitting together. sounding pretty good. You can see I took the kick there. I fattened it up a bit with some drum bus, a bit of EQ. Very standard stuff if you watch my videos. Drum bus just makes the kick a bit stronger. And then the EQ, I cut out some low end actually because this bass is very subby. You know, it's very warm and it's got a lot going on in that range. So it's kind of like how we cut 100 hertz on the bass to make room for the kick. We're cutting this to make room for the bass. And then I also cut some mid-range or some low mid-range. Then on the group, pretty standard stuff as well. If you watch a lot of my videos, the reason why I do a lot of this stuff, a lot of the same way in different videos, is just because like this is what works. You know, it's like this is my way of doing this, and that's what's really important. Is like when you're producing, it's not so much about like this is the way that you make your kick fatter, or this is the way that you make your bass and kick glued together. It's more like I was talking about this on my stream today, but it's more like you want to figure out what techniques work well for you and what you are comfortable doing, and then just use that to achieve the goal that you want. Like you can do it. Like it's not impossible to make these kind of like, you know, these different sounds without doing it like the most orthodox way. It's just about like what you want to do and how you feel comfortable doing it. So then I got the EQs on there as well. You can see, yeah, drum bus. Just kind of tying everything together. One other thing I did was I shortened the kick a little bit. You know, just because like we already have this bass, all this stuff on the end. We didn't need that. So now those two fit together better. So that's another thing. It's just kind of like when you have a kick like this, maybe sometimes you want to shorten it and make sure that it fits really well with the bass. Alright, sounding pretty good. Let's name that low end bus. There we go. I'm going to turn this down a little. Alright, so the next thing we can start adding here is percussion. So I have a bunch of sounds here. I'm going to just try and put together a groove here. Like a standard house groove. Let's start with the simple stuff. Like I'll grab this hi-hat. Get the clap. It's like just starting with the simple stuff. The thing is, with this style of house, it's very, like you have to kind of make your own loops, you know? It's like the way that these drums are supposed to sound is like it's a bunch of loops happening. And kind of like with some program drums. So it's just all about like setting up the basic stuff like this. And then we'll use all this other percussion I have to kind of fill it in. And like I said, kind of make it into more of like a loop as opposed to like very obvious rigid percussion sounds. So good start. And we'll set up the percussion bus as well. Put some reverb on there. Like a really tight, short reverb like that. We'll give it some saturation. Alright, cool. So now we can start filling in some of these spaces here. I'm going to do like something like this. This is something I've learned while doing these videos. Is like, if you get some kind of percussion like this, that's playing on the upbeats like that. A lot of people do this in their tracks, and it adds a lot of energy because it's like every time you're getting that extra little like percussive hit in there on the upbeat. So yeah, it's a good technique. We'll add in some more stuff as well. We like get these hi-hats. Let's make a drum rack, and I'll make those into a little thing. We got like these two hi-hats, and then I'm also gonna get these two shakers that I have. And we'll get the tambourine in there as well. Alright, cool. So now let's get the tambourine. We'll swing it a little bit. There's a bunch of swing on the bass line as you saw before. Swing is just when like these 16th notes like this are a little bit off the grid. That sounds cool. And then the key with something like this is just turning it down. You want it to be kind of like, not behind in the mix, but it's not supposed to be like as up front as the rest of the percussion. Yeah, let's do a little bit less swing on that. And this doesn't have to be swung the same amount as the bass, I found as well. Like when I was listening to a lot of Toolroom tracks for reference for this video, it's like You can have that and the really swinging bass line, because this is just like a bit of a background element. Yeah, let's do that much. It's important to really refine the swing, though. You can see, like, it's a small detail, like the little space between the notes there. But if you really take your time and get it right, like, your overall track is going to sound much better. Let's see what this sounds like on the monitors. Alright, off to a good start. Let's add in, like, some of these. Yeah, that's cool with that shaker. That's something I've noticed a lot of people doing in these tracks. Like, they'll have the shaker like that, kind of doubling up that hi-hat, and then adding in that little extra note there. And then let me shorten this. There we go. Alright. So now I can take that, and we'll duplicate it over a few times. Get it throughout this whole little groove here. Again, we're just trying to set this up like a loop. No, I'll keep that. Something else. Yeah, that's cool. And then we'll shorten that a little. Alright, and then we'll copy this over. Except that time I won't have that. Yeah, there we go. Like, I like how those just have a more, like, grungy, kind of, like, I almost want to say, like, sampled feel to them. I'm going to shorten this a bit. We'll put that through the fade out. Alright, sounding cool. Let's put this through its own little drum bus as well. Cut out some line on it. Yeah, sounding tight. I'm going to shorten this a little as well. It's kind of like a thing, you know, when you get sounds out of a sample pack, or if you get the sounds from this sample pack, which you can get in the description, you have to kind of refine them. It's like, you know, you can't just take the sound straight out of the sample pack. You hear a sound that inspires you, and then you take that and make it fit for what you want. So that's kind of what we're doing here with all this. With all the stuff. Alright, sounding cool. Let's add in some more of this percussion as well. That's cool. I'm also thinking like maybe later in the track we could have this like do something like this, where we're like automating the pitch up. That might add some nice intensity to the sound. There we go. And it's like this is the stuff that you hear like when you listen through like the Toolroom catalog, and not even just them, but like a lot of this kind of house, like this is the kind of stuff that you hear that you may not always notice, but it's there, and it's the difference between your track sounding professional and label ready and sounding like you still need to work on it. So like stuff like this is important, as quiet as it is. And you can really hear what that adds. Alright, cool. Let's saturate that a little bit more. Nice. Alright, and then we have another percussion in here. This one. See what we can do with that one. I think we could still use something. There we go, just something that's hitting like every now and then. Put some drum bus on it. Maybe I'll put this down an octave. No, let's put it back up. Alright, there we go. And I'm putting that in mono just because it had some weird stereo stuff going on, but cool. Sounding pretty good. I always like the rhythm section, you know, that's kind of the main thing in the track here. I'm going to go ahead and clean up the mix a little bit. I'm actually going to do this on the monitors real quick. Alright, there we go. So, yeah, just kind of went in there, refined it. I played with the saturator. I also compressed the percussion a little bit. This is a good technique. The only key with this one is you want to make sure that you turn the attack up. The attack is how long it takes for the compression to kick in. I'm pretty sure I can actually show you this. So if you look at this, here's with the attack down to the default setting. You can see that. Now watch when I turn it up. See how it's not going down as deep there? That would be because of the attack. It's not compressing the transients of the sound. Basically, like I said, this is how long it takes for the compression to kick in. So when you have a sound like a percussion or something like that, you have what's called a transient. It's this thing, like right at the start of the sound. This is where the impact of the sound comes from. I can show you on the clap probably most easily. That's the transient. And you can see if I cut that off, the sound starts getting softer and softer. So if you flatten that with compression, it's not going to be good. Your percussion is going to sound just really flat and not really, it's going to sound kind of weird. It's not going to hit right. But if you turn up this attack, you can compress the body of the sound, so all the stuff over here, without messing with the transient. So it's kind of like best of both worlds. So that's what I was going for there. And then, yeah, I also mixed the bass a little bit, just kind of playing around with the filter on that. Just kind of standard stuff. The key here is really just making sure that like the hi-hats and the percussion are sitting in the right place in the mix. Like you want the kick and the bass to really be punching through like this. But then it's mixed in such a way where all the percussion is very focused on the high end. So there you go, like it just fits together really well. Let's name this percussion. Alright, cool. So now I'm going to add a little bit more stuff. I'm going to try and I have this one little piano sample in here actually. It's from the Korg M1. Thinking we could do something cool with like a stab of some sort. Yeah, that sounds really cool. Kind of adds to like the intensity of the track as well, and like the rhythm, and gives it more of like a driving feel. Maybe a little bit of echo on this. Put some reverb on there. I'm gonna put some chorus on it as well. This is good. With the M1 piano, if you put some chorus on it, it gets a very rich and full sound. You can hear that. Alright, sounds cool. Put some drum bus on this as well, make it fatter. You know, drum bus, you don't have to just put it on your drums and your bass. It's also very, very good on pretty much anything. I use it on leads, pianos like this. It just makes everything sound so much more like fat and powerful if you really know how to use it. Like, here's without the drum bus, and then with it. It's like, it just sounds too good to not use it. Alright, now let's do a little bit more with this. I'm going to, right now this is just a G minor chord. We just have G, the root note, A sharp, the minor third, and then D, the fifth. I'm going to add on an extra note on there, a minor seventh. Now we get a minor seventh chord. Sounds cool. I feel like that fits with the vibe. There's a minor ninth. Maybe I'll do like this. Yeah, let's do that. So it's just going, so this is a minor ninth chord. It's just a regular minor chord with a minor seventh and a ninth on top of it. And if you like the ninth, it's actually just one note down from the minor third. But yeah, so we have that, and then it goes down to that. That has like a very housey feel to it. Now I also want to play around with this and try and write something maybe more busy for like the break or something. But the thing is, when I write parts that aren't like, even if the parts aren't gonna play together, like in this case, this piano I'm about to write is gonna play in the break. This isn't going to be playing over this part. I still like to check it over the main part like this, because sometimes, you know, you're writing something for another part and then you don't realize it doesn't really fit with your other stuff. This way you can be sure that it's gonna fit, so that it all sounds like one cohesive song all together when you actually play it through, and it doesn't just sound like a bunch of scatterbrained ideas. That sounds cool. Maybe we will use that over like the next drop or something, or like when the main thing comes. That sounds cool. Let's maybe push this back a little. It's like I'm really trying to get it perfect. Yeah, that's the groove. Alright, cool. Checking it on the monitor. Alright, sounding pretty good. So it's not been that much time, honestly, but I've already got a pretty solid idea going on here. So I'm gonna start arranging this, and I'll probably add more and kind of do a few different things once we actually have the arrangement, especially like in the break and stuff. But what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna just grab all of this and cut it. Let's turn off the automation lock, cut it, paste it over here. And the first thing we're gonna start with is the kick, and we'll get like a little bit of the percussion. Like, let's get the clap. Maybe I'll get like this, but we'll get rid of some of it. Yeah, that sounds cool. And then I'm also going to filter the kick here, so we'll just get a high-pass filter. And I'm actually going to put it on the group of the kick and the bass, because there's going to be different times where we want to filter those together. And there we go. That'll start out kind of filtered like that for the intro. Let's keep that going into this next part. I'll bring in the hi-hat. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so we got that little transition there at the end of the first 16 bars. And then it filters down there. Kind of a cool way to do it there. We'll get kick again. Same percussion that we had there. Maybe we'll like tease the piano in here. Cool, and I'm going to do a cool thing to transition the bass in here. What we're going to do is actually, it's going to start coming at this point. We're just going to high pass the bass in. So I'm going to get a high pass filter on here. And I know I have that one on the group. We're still going to use that for some of the different parts in the track. But for now, we just want this to be on the bass here. So what we're going to do is we can just automate this bass, this high pass filter to go down. Just like over the course of this. And it'll just start coming in naturally. That's cool. Okay, so we can keep working with this intro. Maybe here the full piano will come in. And we can also get some of this percussion here that I haven't used so far in the intro. Alright, cool. And then we can you know what I think I'm going to do actually here? I'm going to make an executive decision to change the stab here, at least in the intro. Maybe we'll do it in a different part, but for the intro, we're actually going to use this MIDI on like a little synth stab I'm going to make. And I'll explain why in a moment, but let's make the sound. I'm going to get analog here. Yeah, that's cool. Because we can make a pretty nice little chord stab using analog here. Let's key track it a little. And there we go. See, just like a little house stab. Kind of like some old school vibes. Give it some chorus. Give it a bit of echo. It's like the piano. Yeah, it has a really cool vibe to it. Alright, and then what we're going to do is I'm going to filter in the piano here. We're going to kind of like tease it. Like it'll just kind of start coming in here maybe. But I think this is going to be a much smoother way to do it than to just jump from the stabs straight into the brow, 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 brow. Alright, let's actually do this transition for longer. And then we'll have it be filtered all the way up when it gets to there. Put some reverb on this. Nice, and then I also have this drone here, so we'll start bringing that in here, and that'll play in the break. What we'll do is I'm going to turn on the loop here, and we're going to turn up this fade. You can see if I just turn it up now, it's not doing anything. What we have to do is turn down the length and turn up the start time, and there we go. Now we have this like endless loop. Alright, there we go. We are in House City now. Alright, let's get a bit of drum bass on this. Again, really good way to just make any sound fat and more full sounding. We'll put some reverb on it as well. Let's give it some chorus. I like to do this kind of stuff. It may seem like it doesn't make a huge difference, but it does make a difference because it's like if you do this in every single one of your tracks, then when people hear your tracks, they hear this sound which they're familiar with and they've heard in a lot of other tracks. But it's not so obvious. Like it feels like it's a different take on it. It becomes very clear that like you're doing your own thing and you're not just trying to, you know, make exactly whatever style of house it may be that you're trying to make. So let's get an auto filter on that. And like I said, we're just going to like slightly bring that in there. let's keep that kick and bass going into the break here. It'll still be filtered up, of course. And then what we'll do is we'll use that high pass filter, and I'll just automate the frequency to go up there. So it'll be kind of filtering those out there in this part. Alright, and then we'll automate that reverb to go up there as well. That little bass click there you hear, that's just because the filter's turning off. There we go. Alright, there's the vibe. So now we're going to... So we got the drone filtering out there. Let's do some automation on the piano. I'm going to get a delay. And let's do ping pong. So it'll be like bouncing around. We're going to use 16th notes, and I'll just automate that dry wet to go up there. Just kind of like a different way to do it, you know, something a little bit more creative here than just like filtering it down. Something like that. Cool, and then maybe we can use that still a little bit into the break, or into the drop, I mean to say. Like, let's turn on the automation lock, and I'll just kind of chop it around this other chord stab. Like, we can have it playing off of what that's doing. Yeah, like something like this. Yeah, that's really cool. Like, again, it's just trying to use these sounds in a more interesting way than just like the piano just plays in the break, then the drop comes and it disappears. It's like, yeah, just making it a bit more creative and kind of like bringing the sounds to life too. Because when you hear something play two different parts in a track, or like two different things like in different parts of the track, it makes it a lot more interesting than if we just go out of here and the piano is just gone. Alright, now to really bring this drop to life here, I have a ride, like a 909 ride, used a ton in house and techno, especially this style of house. It's just like that sound. I'm sure you've heard it. Let's play it at that pitch. And I'm going to bring this into this drop here so that it'll be like something new. Again, we want it to not just feel like we're, you know, rehashing the intro. We want it to feel like the intro was building up to this. Like when you get to this, this is what that was teasing, as opposed to like just copying and pasting it over. Like we did copy and paste it over, but then you take it and add stuff like this to bring it to life. And this will also make it more intense when the drop hits too, because you haven't heard this yet, and it's got a lot of high end to it. So it's like all of a sudden this new bright layer. It's gonna sound good. Well, maybe we could do something cool like this. That does sound tight. And then This one will be like that. Yeah, that sounds really tight. Alright, then usually with this, I like to make it a bit wider. So what I'll do to do this is I'm going to get an echo actually. And we are going to turn the feedback down. We're going to turn the filter up. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to unsync these. I just give them this really fast delay time, and then we'll have them at two very slightly different times. And now you can hear that's a lot wider. So then we have the other hi-hat down the center. And then this one is like, it kind of sets it apart, you know? So let's hear what this sounds like also in mono. The one thing you want to keep in mind with house music is like, you can do cool stereo stuff like this, but you want to make sure it still works in mono because club systems are typically in mono. So it's not going to sound very good if all of a sudden it goes to mono and like all the layers are missing. So I'm going to put a utility on the master here. We're just going to set it to mono and check. Okay, yeah, sounds cool. Obviously, you know, definitely sounds good when it's split and it's stereo like that, but you still get the same effect actually when it's in mono, where it's kind of like setting it apart from that other hi-hat. Like now you can really hear the space between those, versus if I turn off the echo, they kind of blend together, so. Alright, sounding cool. So here I'm going to take this sound that I was talking about earlier. And I'm actually going to make a new track with it, playing the same MIDI, and we can just take that out of the percussion group. It'll just be like this percussion that will sort of come in there, and then that's percussion 1, I believe. But what we'll do, there we go, and then it's gonna have a bit of delay on it as well. And then what we'll do is, like I was saying, I'm going to take a frequency shifter, automate that fine tune to go up. So this will become like a riser. This is something I noticed in a lot of these tracks as well. Like just creative risers, basically. I'm going to start filtering down a little. Oh yeah, that sounds pretty tight. Again, it's just like another little transitional element. I'm going to take this delay actually that I automated on the piano. We're going to switch that out for a reverb. Low key, because I think that's going to sound better. We'll do the same thing. We're just going to automate the dry wet to go from nothing up to quite a bit of something. There we go. And then I like how it just ends like that right when the drop hits. Perfect. Alright, now I'm going to add in some effects. I'm going to make a little white noise riser for this part. We're going to get operator for that, and what it's going to do is this is going to be like really long. I've noticed in these tracks they tend to have quite a bit of white noise. The white noise really helps with the energy because you got to have that like, you know, fist pumping kind of like intensity there. And this white noise adds a lot of hype and a lot of high end, which brings the hype. So it helps with really adding that intensity, like I'm saying. So let's have this just build up there, and then it's gonna drop down slowly in the drop. Also got to get a low pass or a high pass filter on that to cut out some low end, because you could hear. Let's give it some reverb. Yeah, and then when that drops with the white noise, you see I'm not even gonna sidechain it. Like, you don't even want to do that. It just gives it that extra little like, hey, you know. We'll even do a little bit of it here. Like, it won't be as long. It'll just be a little bit of something building there. Alright, sounds good. Looks good. Yeah, there that is. And then also here, I'm going to make a little clip, and we're going to just put a little short psh, there. I'll get the filter to go up right there. Yeah, that's cool. And then let's do something a little different with the piano. Here we'll make it a little bit more scarce. Like, we'll just get rid of that one note. Yeah, it's like definitely just playing around with like the placement of the notes. Like, you can get so much stuff. Like, that's what is really interesting about making dance music and like how rhythmic it really is that like, you know, this is kind of like your instrument. It's like playing around with the length of these MIDI clips, which I think is very interesting. Alright, let's change the color of these. I always like to change the color if I have the same sound playing multiple clips at different times. Just kind of helps me to remember what's going on. Alright, let's see where the master tuning. Yeah, not bad. Usually at this stage, when you have like all these elements like this, you want to be hitting about maybe -4 to -6. And we're at -5. Oh, just jumped up a little. And there it is. Alright, sounding good. So I'm going to go through here and do a little bit of last minute mixing with my monitors really quick. Alright, cool. The mix is sounding pretty good. So just run through there, kind of like tighten up the percussion a little bit, you know. Checked on certain things. Like, for example, with this, you may have noticed I just slightly tweaked that filter sweep. It's because, like this, it was at a lower point at one point, and I could hear that on my monitors, but I realized I couldn't hear it on the speaker. So it's like stuff like that. This is why you don't want to just check your mixes on one thing, but you want to check it on multiple things and really get a comprehensive idea of what's going on in your track, and not just like, you know, hearing it on your monitors or your headphones that you may not know as well as you think you know. So on this stage, it is time to do some mastering. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to the loudest part. I've got it looped already. It's this part. We're going to check and just make sure where we're hitting. About -5. Nice. First thing that we are going to do here is we are going to get a bit of EQ. So I'm going to get an EQ in here, and we're going to give this a bit of a low end boost, a low mid-range cut, slight one. Cutting, and then we'll turn up that Q there, turn up the gain a little as well. Again, when I said slight, I couldn't stress that enough. And then we'll give it a high end boost as well. And then one thing we got to do before we do all this is just turn everything down, like -3 like that, just because this tends to turn up the volume a little bit. But listen to this before this, and then after it. You can hear it's really adding to the track. It just kind of takes everything and makes it a lot more focused, and we can even turn up the bass a little bit more. Yeah, it's really giving us that low end boost to just bring out the kick and the bass, bringing out the sharpness and the hi-hats. You can really hear what that's doing, helping to bring up those high highs, and the low mid-range cut just cuts out mud. This just focuses the mix, makes it feel cleaner overall. After this, I'm going to get a little bit of compression. We're not going to do a whole lot. I'm going to turn off the makeup gain, and we're going to turn up the attack a bit. This is like what I was talking about before with the percussion. The attack on the compressor is going to make it so that we're not compressing the transients of the sounds. It's also like with the piano, as you can see, the piano has that. It's not just piano, or it's not just percussion. The piano has a transient as well. So it's like, you want to make sure that every sound isn't getting squashed too much. So that's why we do that. We'll also turn the ratio off a little bit, or turn it down a little. And let's just compress this a little. Cool, so here's without this compression, and then with it. You can hear it just makes the mix feel a bit more balanced, a bit more even, and yeah, it's like the compression, that's what it does. It evens out volumes of things that you put into it. So if you way over compress it, it's going to sound squashed. But if you do it like this, you can still kind of push the things together without just completely flattening it. So, cool, that's sounding pretty good. After that, I'm actually going to put this before the compressor, but I'm going to use a little bit of saturation. We're going to turn the output down, maybe like that, and I'm going to just give it a little bit of drive. So, alright, there it is. So here's without this. And with it, you can hear this is very subtle. I mean, the compression was subtle. Everything is subtle. But it's just kind of tying everything together a little bit more. The way saturation works, I'll show you. If I get another saturator here, you can hear if I turn this drive way up. So you can hear, as crazy as it sounds, it just kind of pushes everything together, right? Like it glues everything together. In this case, it's making everything sound like literally just one sound. So by compressing, or by saturating this a lot less, only 4 dB, like this, you can hear it's tying everything together like that without like making it just but we're still getting like the overall thing feels a lot more together. It's the same thing as using like a drum bus on the low end bus, or you know, using some saturation on the percussion bus. It's just this little bit of saturation on multiple elements at once. It's a really good way to tie all those elements together and make them all feel like one. And then the last thing we're going to do here is I'm going to get a limiter, and we're going to just turn up the ceiling to 0 dB, and we're going to turn up the gain here until we hit 0 dB up here. And there we go. So now the limiter isn't really doing that much limiting. It is doing a tiny bit. But but you can still see plenty of movement there. And the mix still sounds clean. So this is just getting the volume up to 0 dB. So now we have this as loud as any other professional track in this style. Alright, so sounding pretty good. At this stage, let's hear the full finished track from start to finish. Alright, well, there it is. We went from a blank project file to a mastered track in the style. So that is going to be it for this one, guys. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed this video. As always, make sure to like this video as well as subscribe, and let me know what you think in the comments. Like I said in the beginning, you can get the project file and samples and MIDI and presets and all of that stuff in the description. And if you're a patron on my Patreon, check there because it's already available. Thank you so much, guys, and I will see you tomorrow with another video.